Everything is awesome within the LEGO movies, with the film using such an already commonplace item, the LEGOs themselves, and creating their own world and characters around it. The film manages to do this by using the central theme of creativity to build onto these characters, both figuratively and literally at times. However, there are more to these figures than meets the untrained eye. As good as these figures are, some are a bit more broken and cracked than the others. So, just where do these characters rank in terms of morality? Let's find out. I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and this is the LEGO Movies Good to Evil.
Awesome!
As usual, we'll be beginning with the good and working our way down to the evil, starting with the most pure. Bear in mind, there are way more good people in these movies than bad ones. For the gold medal of most good character, we have the ever so lovable Emmett. At first, just a standard LEGO figure construction worker, Emmett looks to be just a standard run-of-the-mill guy. Which is kinda true. He is just a happy-go-lucky guy who just wants to work as a construction worker and hang out with his friends. His guide is a literal instruction book, more than happy to follow the law and never deviate from it. That is, until he got the crazy glue cap stuck to his back where he realized just what was truly happening. He learns that President Business is planning on gluing all the LEGO figures down and that he wants to stop it. Despite being constantly mocked for being too ordinary by others, he still does his best to get the piece onto the Kraggle's tip to stop it. He even manages to use the fact that he is so ordinary to his advantage, sneaking his team into Lord Business's place. What really sets Emmett this high is his willingness to die, or at the very least, vanish into the abyss. Self-sacrifice is always a good indicator of good, and in Emmett's case, when his death meant the safety of all the master builders who used to belittle him, he deserves massive props. He even helps President Business turn over a new leaf and become a good guy, freeing everyone that was once glued down. However, the second movie does show Emmett in a more interesting light. He still starts out very good in the beginning, being the only resident of Apocalypseburg willing to save his friends after they get kidnapped by Sweet Mayhem, and before that was willing to try and befriend the invading Duplo army. However, thanks to constantly being mocked by the other townfolk, even his girlfriend Wildstyle, for not being hardcore and edgy enough, with the help from his evil future self Rex, Radical Emmett Extreme, he ends up getting harder and tougher in an attempt to better himself towards others, only to realize how bad of an idea it was. We won't dock him too many points for that, as he genuinely believed he was doing good and was even encouraged to do so by his friends and Rex, who Emmett still thought highly of before he found out the truth behind him. He even realized his mistake and immediately tried to fix it, only to get launched underneath a washer for his efforts. To be fair as well, he also ended up indirectly creating this sister system by giving the Duplo invaders a heart made out of Legos as a literal peace offering. While not everything Emmett did was awesome, saving the world and being one of the last remaining bright faces in the apocalypse, willing to save his friends from what he believed was brainwashing, is definitely more than enough to earn him our top spot. Next up, the silver medal for good goes to Vitruvius. The LEGO figure that was the original protector of the Kraggle, he ends up becoming the mentor for Emmett, helping him learn how to use his abilities of creativity, aiding him in his quest to Lord Business's lair to stop the Kraggle. He may have failed to stop Lord Business and got blinded for his efforts, but it's the thought and effort that counts here. Unlike the other builders, while he isn't afraid to point out how unoriginal Emmett can be at times, he still backs Emmett all the way and fully believes in him. Like he said, I liked Emmett before he was cool. He fabricated the whole prophecy as a way to help give hope against Lord Business's force. He also gave Emmett the final boost of encouragement he needed before he realized just how he was still special, despite not being the actual special. Up next, with the bronze, we have Princess Unikitty, the leader of Cloud Cuckoo Land. As the ruler of the land, she runs everything with a laid-back approach, more than happy to let the land be as nonsensical as it wants, as long as everyone is happy. Sure, she does welcome the newcomers to her land, but besides that, she is more than happy to just let the residents do their own thing. She ends up joining Emmett on his quest to stop Lord Business, distracting the robot guards with her disguise and business numbers talk. However, she isn't all sweet, as when her friends are in danger, she is more than capable of getting angry and defending them, being able to even flat out eat robots if she's angry enough. In the second movie, she's even more angry and scrap happy, increasing her anger by accessing her inner rage by thinking about bad things, like poverty, pollution, and raisins. Yeah, the reason she didn't get any higher up is that she has grown to have real anger problems, but to be fair, all the residents of Apocalypseburg have this problem, save for Emmett. Overall, she is definitely a great ruler. Moving on, we have Wildstyle, or Lucy. In comparison to Emmett, she is more outspoken and blunt with her feelings. Despite working for the Resistance, it's clear that she has more than a couple chips on her shoulder. Wanting to be the special herself, she doesn't take too kindly to Emmett at first, being so far from her expectations despite having the piece of resistance stuck on his back. As such, she is more than willing to belittle him during their time in the Wild West, up till meeting with Vitruvius. Despite all of this, deep down, she does indeed have a rather sensitive side, one that she isn't really interested in sharing. As such, her persona is more or less built up to not be as emotionally vulnerable. However, with her journey with Emmett, she has learned to open up and become friendlier with others. That said, she did end up having a bit of a relapse in the second LEGO movie, but with some reasoning this time. The world is a literal apocalypse, and to survive, she feels like showing emotion is a sign of weakness. She ends up being a major factor in Emmett himself deciding to toughen up, constantly telling him to be edgier. Regardless, she did realize her mistake in that she loved Emmett more as the lovable friendly guy he is, rather than the hardcore tough guy he thinks she wants. She may be a bit cold at first glance, but she is more than okay with warming up to you, if she wants to, that is. Moving on, we have the spaceship-loving Benny. As he oh so proudly declares, loving spaceships is one defining trait. He is a rather simple fellow. He just loves his spaceships. Starting out his life from 1984, he's been through a lot, as you can tell from his faded out outfit and broken helmet. However, this meant that his suit was leaking oxygen and his brain was suffering from it. When we see him later in Cloud Cuckoo Land, he is as lightheaded as his spacesuit is, and loves spaceships above all else. That said, he is still more than willing to aid Emmett on his quest to stop Lord Business, so he still gets some points. However, he can be a bit too attached to spaceships. He wants them to be the answer to everything, and we do mean everything. But otherwise, he is a friendly guy. Up next, we have our first human character on the list, the Mother. Now, in terms of the humans, they're being graded as they are in the real world, and their influence on the LEGO society isn't going to be counted. Now, Emmett and Finn do meet, technically, but this rule is just to keep things from getting too complicated. Anywho, the Mother is, well, the mother of Finn and Bianca. It really isn't that much more complicated. We really don't know much about her, but we do know that she has had to deal with her two children bickering like this. Bianca has been stealing from Finn, and Finn is just fed up with everything. So just what is a mom to do? Well, if they can't play nice, don't play at all. The kids broke the rules and they got punished for it. Plus, after stepping on some Lego pieces, it's probably a chance that she was looking forward to. Not that one can blame her if you ever stepped on a Lego block yourself. She also isn't unreasonable, as when she sees Finn and Bianca respectfully playing with each other, she is more than okay seeing that they learned their lesson. Moving along, we have Batman himself. Now, for Batman, he is a bit of a special case, as he did end up with his own movie. However, due to how the canon of Batman's own movie is different from the sequel, we're gonna have to just say that the second movie didn't happen, at least to this Batman. Now, while this Batman is still the hero, he is also much more showy and arrogant. Being a hero is a business to him, and he isn't afraid to show it, even having his own mixtape. He may be a hero, but he is also extremely prideful of himself. Granted, his pride is somewhat justified due to his long history of being a hero, but he definitely lets it go to his head more than a healthy amount. And as such, he really doesn't think highly of others or their opinions. With all that said, he's more than willing to help Emmett save the day. He also ends up with his own wife. While at first it was just him trying to get back at Superman, it ended up with the two of them genuinely loving each other, and even trying to protect each other against Rex's army. He may be a bit of an egotist, but in the end, he is still Batman, the hero we need, but not the hero we deserve. Next is Captain Metalbeard, the last of Emmett's crew and possibly the most dismissive of him. While Wildstyle just wanted to be the special and Batman has years of experience to back him up, Metalbeard has his own crew lost to Lord Business's tower. This has, reasonably mind you, caused his worldview to get a bit jaded. Seeing Emmett with the piece of resistance and how new he is causes him to get even more disgusted by Emmett's mere presence. Even the other master builders seem to be put off by him when he starts to recount his story. What ends up putting him down this low is him fleeing and leaving them, as well as the other master builders, with the situation being a lost cause. Unlike Batman, who left the crew in order to get an important part they needed, Metalbeard definitely had no plans of returning to Emmett. However, he does end up making up for it by returning to save Emmett and his friends after realizing that Emmett's double-decker couch was able to go unnoticed by Lord Business's army. Now with an actual chance, he does end up becoming a valuable member of the team, using his ship to help Emmett reach Lord Business's hideout and even infiltrating the tower with him to disable the shields around the Craggle. He may be cold as metal at first, but he was able to finally prove himself in the end. Next up we have the older sibling, Finn. As a child, Finn is the storyteller of the first LEGO movie, shaping Emmett's world and story. In his own world, he's just a child who knows that his dad has LEGO figures that he wants to play with. From our perspective, Finn is just a kid who wanted to tell a story with his LEGO figures and is responsible for bringing the toys to life. While the perspective from the father's side paints him as someone who is just disobeying him, judging by how Finn viewed his father and how he portrayed Lord Business, it's clear that the kid just wants to have some fun with his father. However, what puts him this low is his role in the second movie. Here, he more or less is opposed to his little sister playing with his LEGO sets, kind of like how his father was to him in the original movie. That said, he did seem to at least try to befriend her by giving her some LEGO pieces for her to play with, but with over 5 years of her constantly raiding her brother's LEGO creations, bad feelings would naturally arise. Also, after accidentally causing their LEGO creations to get taken away from them, he's the one that takes the first step in repairing his relationship with his sister. While the second did put him in a bit of a negative light, he still is a good kid. Now we move on from one child to another, Bianca. As the younger sibling, she looks up to Finn and just wants to play with him. She can be seen throughout the movie constantly trying to get in on the fun of playing with her brother with his LEGO stories. Unfortunately, due to her young age, she really can't find ways to actually say what she wants, and ends up more or less stealing bricks from her brother for 5 years. While once or twice could be understandable, 5 years is just stretching the limit of disbelief beyond its breaking point. Now, under the threat of her mother getting involved in taking away their LEGO creations, Bianca at least tries in her own way to ease the tensions with Finn. However, with her once again taking his toys without his permission, she ends up getting the last spot on the good side of our list. And with the good characters wrapped up, we now move into the gray area. Our first spot in the gray area goes to the man upstairs. The father of the household, he is the one setting up his own little LEGO town, and he has a very set way of playing with his LEGO figures. While his son would love to play with them, he is much more interested in gluing them all down and creating a pretty scene. Now, considering things from his perspective, he has his own idea of what he wanted to create, and his son is always taking everything apart without permission, making him do more work to get to his dream vision. He even bought Finn his own LEGO sets for him to play with. However, there are still other things that he could have done to compromise with his son, like just asking him to clean up after playing, or even just gluing the buildings down and leaving the figures free. It just seemed like there are a couple other solutions here that would have worked. And this isn't even accounting for how he seemed utterly dismissive about the idea of his mother taking away his son and daughter's LEGO creations. Next up, we have the servants of Rex, his raptors. As a race of dinosaurs, they really aren't that invested in the world around them, mainly just hanging around their own time period. However, once Rex came back to the past on his spaceship with just a wave of a tennis ball, these dinosaurs soon filled the ship and joined him. While they do work for him, even helping launch Emmett underneath the dryer and trying to stop his friends from reaching him, we've put them in the gray area because they really don't show any hostility to Emmett in any other situation. They really enjoy belly rubs, tennis balls, skateboarding, and playing the guitar. They speak to each other like office workers, and they even enjoy a round of billiards. What's more, with Rex gone, they decide to just hang out with Emmett and his friends in their new home. In the end, while they are capable of doing evil things, they really just want to relax and chill out. At Unlucky 13, we have the one who is the most unlucky with her words, Queen Whatevera Wanabe. As the queen of the sister system that has been terrorizing the citizens of Apocalypseburg, the queen is tasked with trying to find a way to unite the two lands in an attempt to ward off Ormomageddon and save their lands. Okay, so it's pretty obvious that she is a good person, so why is she this low? Well, it all comes down to how she markets herself. Having someone come down to literally kidnap the people she needs for the ceremony she needs to perform certainly doesn't help her cause, nor is her song, Not Evil, helping her out. Sure, from her mind it makes sense that her song should have gotten the point across, but her lack of foresight and communication also hinders it. However, something that is kind of villainous about her is her using reverse psychology on Batman to get him to marry her. Now granted, while they do go on to have a genuine loving relationship, it's still a villain move from a self-proclaimed non-villain. Regardless, her heart truly was in the right place in the end. Just ask her. Her true form is a heart after all. On to Sweet Mayhem. As the general for the Queen's army, she is the one who leads the invasion into Apocalypseburg, chasing after Emmett and Lucy throughout the world until they reach the safe bunker. This just led to her kidnapping Emmett's friends after beating them up, and constantly duking it out with Wildstyle. It's clear that she is definitely being rough with them and that she really isn't that apologetic about it. That being said, there is a reason for it. She believes that Lucy and her friends would only answer to people that are just as tough as they become, even if the sister system accidentally creates this very same problem. Sweet Mayhem genuinely seems to want to become friends with those that she sees as her enemy. That being said, she certainly hasn't done that great of a job at convincing them, with parts of Apocalypseburg being destroyed by her. While she is a sweetheart in the end, she definitely could have done a better job getting that point across. Our last entry in the gray area is the personification of the good cop, bad cop gimmick, good cop, bad cop. As the leading worker for Lord Business, he is the one leading the charge against Emmett and his team, constantly chasing them throughout the many worlds. These worlds don't really end up unscathed as well, as he leads his team in destroying everything between him and Emmett, even destroying an entire world, Cloud Cuckoo Land. It's very clear that Bad Cop earned his name for a reason. That said, that's just one side of him. There's also the good cop side, which, while still following Lord Business's plans, is much more polite. He offers Emmett coffee, gives constant reassurance to the robot army chasing Emmett and Emmett himself as he is led to the melting chamber, and even refuses to glue down his own parents. However, once he gets rubbed off, Bad Cop takes over and is much more okay with doing that deed. Thankfully, he does end up rebelling against Lord Business after he was sentenced to die alongside the other master builders, even giving himself a new good cop face. One made of scribbles, but still. With the gray area down, we now only have two residents that fall in the evil category. For our silver medal of evil, we have Lord Business. While the father is at least just someone who doesn't want his Lego set ruined, Lord Business is a much crueler person than his human counterpart. His goal is to use the Craggle to achieve a perfect society by force. On his quest to glue everything down, he ends up not only causing the destruction of some parts of Bricksburg in the Old West, but also completely destroys Cloud Cuckoo Land. The worst of his deeds is when he kills most of Metalbeard's crew, decapitates Vitruvius, and when he has everything stuck in the think tank. He's more than willing to not only have Emmett glued down and die after watching his own town get destroyed, but everyone else in the room, even his own helper, Bad Cop. That said, there is one huge positive about him. After Emmett tells him just how special he can be, he actually decides to give up on his goal and not only put the piece of resistance on the Craggle, but he also gave out an antidote to everyone affected by his goal. However, he doesn't end up being that helpful in the second movie, instead just running away from the invading alien army. While he is better than he was before, he definitely still has a long way to go to becoming a good person. In the end, we started with Emmett and ended with Emmett, or rather his evil future self, Rex Dangervest. Rex, or Radical Emmett Extreme, is the future Emmett who didn't succeed in his trip to the sister system, and got lost underneath the dryer. As he saw all of his friends having fun without him and no one looking for him, his rage fueled him to become powerful enough to move in the real world, rebranding himself and building his time machine to go back into the past to save his past self. While this sounds good on paper, his real goal is much more vile. He plans on bringing forth the apocalypse, ensuring the destruction of not only Apocalypseburg, but the sister system as well, ensuring everyone is banished to the storage bins. It should be obvious just why this is an evil idea, as while Lord Business at least only wanted one world where everything was perfectly neat and tidy, Rex's plan is a full-on apocalypse, which easily puts him at the top spot of evildoers. Even more so with not having any regrets about the situation, except for not trademarking the phrase, "no regrets." Though to be fair, there really isn't much competition. However, even in the end, Rex still does have a moment of genuine kindness, even when he is vanishing, or as he calls it, back to the futuring, saying that Emmett is going to become better than him. He even thanks Lucy for saving both Emmett and himself, so he definitely learned his lesson. It just goes to show you, even if everything isn't awesome, there is still the potential for awesome in everything. And with that said, that concludes our list. Did we follow the rules properly with ordering these characters, or did we miss a step along the way? Let us know in the comments section below. Make sure to hit that notification bell and binge our Good to Evil playlist, where we break down the morality of the characters in your favorite shows, cartoons, and movies. But most importantly, stay wicked.